ever spoken publicly. I think he did all right, didn't he? Okay, you know Mufassil. I've told him he's only got 10 minutes. So the clock's ticking. Okay, good.
Right. Richard, you were too soft with the truth. Right. I take the glory of feeding Afzal KFC for the first time. I apologize, I have a bad cold anyway. Now, everything I'm going to say here, I'm ready to debate any Muslim scholar from anywhere in the world. And I want him to prove me wrong in my claims. I'm ready to stand my position. It's nice to be back here, and I was shocked when I read the judgment in the European Court where it was said that a lady had to pay the fine eventually because she called Muhammad a pedophile. Well, she was probably not helped by the right Islamic scholar, because you cannot find an Islamic scholar who probably helped her. So if I were there to help her, I would have definitely made her win the case, because Muhammad was a pedophile. Why was he a pedophile? Because he not only had someone at the age of 9 to have as his wife, but also because he in fact inspired his followers to marry someone who was young so that they could fondle her and play with her. And Muhammad used to play with his child bride with dolls and by wearing her clothing. Now, anyway, now what we should do, we should in fact help Muslims, save Muslims from Islam, because they love, trust me, they don't love Islam, they're afraid of leaving Islam. Most of the Muslims are afraid to leave Islam. And if many of them even left Islam, they would not talk about it. They will not talk about it. And some surveys say that 75% of new converts to Islam leave Islam within the first 5 years. And nobody wants to talk about it. I helped Afzal, I think Afzal will vouch for that, to leave Islam. And in the last 2 years, I have helped to my best possibility to leave 20,000 Muslims to leave Islam. It's a mass tsunami, I would say. Why? Because I took a huge risk on my life to tell the truth. And I have lost everything. There's nothing else for me to lose. So that's why I have become desperate to save mankind from this death cult. It's a death cult. It's nothing but a death cult. It's the only religion that inspires and instigates its followers to rape non-Muslim women because they are potential war booties. It's a matter of time when they can take over or go to war to take over non-Muslim lands. That's the main purpose of Islam. To understand Islam, you need to read the Quran. And if you ask me how we can make people aware of Islam, how we can help Muslims to leave Islam, tell them or encourage them to read the Quran. And it is extremely difficult to read the Quran. Why is it difficult to read the Quran? Because there's no such thing as Islamic scholar. To be a scholar, you need to take on board the opposite arguments. If you are memorizing the Quran like a parrot, if you are reading the arguments of the apologists, and if you are reading the interpretations and history of some of the history of the Muhammad, sporadic history, you would not. If you never read the geopolitics, you will never be a scholar. That's what I understand. Because to be a scholar, you need to take on board the opposite views. In Islam, you cannot question Quran. You cannot question. So if you don't question, then how can you be a scholar? It is in the Quran, it says that you do not question it. Only Allah will be the one to question it. And Islam is a cult which in fact wants to spread the Arabic fascist political ideology. And faith is just a part of it. So whenever a Muslim, you tell a Muslim, sorry, I left Islam, he will say, you are stupid. How can you not believe in a creator? Who created you? But the question is, do I have to believe in Islamic Allah to believe in the possibility of there being a God? No. So there's no, they don't get it. Why? Because that analytical mind was killed since they're child. The moment that a Muslim child is born, he is circumcised. So Islam is stamped on his body permanently. And then Islam is embedded in his head in a situation where he was not in a position to question ever. So he is spanked, and beating up of kids is widespread, and the Quran is taught with a cane in the teacher's hand. It is happening right across the UK as well. And nobody can prove me wrong. And I think Afzal will vouch for that as well. So there were many victims, and we get pedophile imams arrested every other month in the UK. I have got data. So this is just a fraction of what's happening around the world. I have recorded thousands of Muslims who fell victim to pedophile imams. Thousands. I have audio recorded them. So Islam is a political fascist movement which in fact tells that if a non-Muslim nation is in a treaty with a Muslim nation, then you wait for the time when you are strong enough so that you can have reasons to break the treaty. For example, Muhammad had a treaty called the Hudaybiyah Peace Treaty with non-Muslims, which was brokered by one of his father-in-laws, who was the leader of Mecca then. Mecca was not a Muslim dominated place at that time. And when Muhammad's followers were not very happy about it, he said, you will find opportunities to go for jihad again. And if a Muslim scholar wants to deny that, well, he can debate with me. I can keep on boring you with verses. I can tell you, you can find this from Surah 40. Muslim scholar, when I debated a Muslim, last time I was with you from there, Qadri, who helped Senator Connor to convert Islam. I felt pity for Senator Connor because she never met me. Probably Senator Connor should have met me before converting to Islam, and I'm sure she doesn't know anything about Islam. And then Imam Tawhidi, another apologist Islamic scholar, none of them knew anything about Islam. I can go for a second round with Dr. Mullah Qadri if he's watching this video. I can go for a second round. None of them know Islam. Now, why not? Because to understand even a single chapter of Quran, you have to understand the treasury in it. The treasury is unbelievable. For example, if you will find a verse like that, if you're not threatened, if somebody is not banishing you from your homes, if somebody is not fighting you for your religion, you don't wage war. That's the Quranic surah. There is a Quranic surah for the Surah 60 verse, I think 5, as far as I remember. Now, if a Muslim throws you at your face like that, you will say, oh wow, oh. But you have to understand when that surah came. It came at a time when Mecca was surrendering to Muhammad. And then you have to understand what was the last surah then? What is the final conclusion about all this? You have to find the very last verses of the Quran. And some of the scholars will say this is the last verse, some of the scholars will say this is the last verse. Then what do? You read the history of every verse of the Quran. It took me 35 years to understand this. Because it is the last one, of the 114 surahs in the timeline order, 113 is in fact, in the Quranic codification, is number 9. How can you understand that? And then it is said that the non-Muslims should pay the tax, the jizya tax, and they should pay it humbly. So there's no equal right, right? So why do we see Muslims coming over here and saying we want equal right? When people like me, people like Afzal, we cannot go and live in a Muslim country anymore. We are told if you come, we'll beat you up, we'll kill you. So where is the equal right there? So they will shout about, Mufassil, you are insulting my religion. Well, I live in a country where I have the right to offend for your religion. Now, if I'm killed, that means I don't have a freedom of speech. But you want a freedom of speech. You want a freedom of speech to shout out a book where you are insulting all other religions. You are spreading wrong views about the Trinity. Absolutely wrong view. And you are asking your followers to memorize that. You are insulting idolatry. Well, I'm telling you, you have the right to preach, but let me have the same right as well. So that's the hypocrisy there this religion teaches. This religion teaches that there's no word as for rape in the Quran. No punishment for rape in the Quran. Adultery, there's a punishment. Why? Because you cannot have sex with my wife. You cannot have sex with my daughter. You cannot have sex with my slave even without my permission. So that's considered adultery. Adultery is illegal. But in Islam, you can have sex with your wife and also with your slave girl. And the slave girl is a war booty. What's the difference? For a slave, you do not need to have permission from the slave. That's the difference. So if you are having sex without permission, what's that? Rape. So who can you rape? War booties. Where can you get the war booties? From non-Muslims. And who should, when I hear a Muslim woman say, Jonathan Connor was wearing what, a hijab, right? In Islam forbids you to even shave off your hair and cut it under your neck. But that's what Sharon did. And I would say, Sharon, did you know that in the Quran, only Muslim women are ordered to wear the hijab? Why is that? Do you know that during Arab slave trades, non-Muslim slaves were not allowed to wear anything to cover their chest? Non-Muslim women. Did you know this? Why? Because they needed to sell them off. Did you know that having sex with married women is not permitted in Islam unless she's a war booty? So did you know all this? So to understand all this, you need to know the Quran, you need to know the biography of Muhammad. So know the biography, what you do? Find the oldest available biography for Muhammad, and then you read it. So the quickest way would be for all of you to study the biography of Muhammad, and not from some Islamic publication. Well, okay, Islamic source then. Oldest source available, even Isaac, read all that. And these are the oldest available biography of Muhammad. Read that, then read the Quran. That's the quickest way to do it. And then hadith, you're going to throw up if you read comparable. You're going to throw, I guarantee you throw up. And now, coming to the peace-loving majority of Muslims. Yes, most of the Muslims are peaceful. Why? Because they don't know Islam. They're being ritualistic, they're wearing hijab, they're for a 5 times prayer, but they don't know Islam. Why? Because 75% of the Muslims are non-Arabic. Most of the Muslims never read the Quran. Never read them. Never. So all these things, they will find it impossible to digest when you keep on throwing. Because you know what? In Surah 98, that is chapter 98, verse 6, Quran says the non-Muslims are the worst creatures. Find the context. There's no context. I challenge. There's no context. It's a generalized term. What's the worst creatures? And when you tell them, say, no, impossible, there must be a context. Well, there's no context. And when they will react, why they react? Because they were never trained even to counteract. The analytical mind is killed. So what do? They react. Because that's the reaction even they got since their childhood when they questioned. So now when I question, I get abuses. So on my Facebook page, I get death threats by the minute. By the minute. So when I hear that I get death threats from vast majority of Muslims, then I don't see even a single Muslim saying, sorry, don't do that, let him speak. He's giving references for every word that he's saying. Why? So if you have no respect for peace, if you have respect for peace, if you love for peace, you should also preserve peace, and you should also stand for peace. Now, when I'm saying all this, they say, Mufassil, you are getting paid by the Christian Zionist regime. I think, I got some money from my friend over there. Now, as far as the caliphate, Sharia is concerned, Islamic law is concerned, the so-called think tanks are throwing the wrong questions. The wrong question is, do you want Sharia? No, we are a non-Muslim country. We don't want Sharia. You want Sharia for only Muslim-dominated countries. Okay, do you want Quran to prevail? Do you want Quran to be guiding your life? Yes, that's what I want. Okay, do you want the world to be run by Quran values? Yes. Now say, okay, do you want an apostate to be killed because there is no forgiveness for someone like Mufassil living Islam and criticizing it? What do you think? They'll say, oh, no, really. The Quran says, okay, Quran says. So what does he want? Sharia. So 99.9% of the Muslims do in fact support Sharia. The Islamic scholars here will be apologists, will be engaging in mental gymnastics. But the Islamic scholars say in Bangladesh, damn about your apologies, arguments. And the Bangladeshi present Prime Minister, she in fact addressed a group called Hifazat Islam, who in fact put the mega city of Dhaka into a standstill by demanding apostates should be killed. Why am I against Islam? Because Islam is the only religion which orders killing of apostates, which considers non-Muslims to be worst creatures on the face of the earth, which insults all other religions, but at the same time, in the initial stage of Islam and the Quranic revelations, it will say, well, like Rafiddin, there is no compulsion in Islam. Lakum dinikum walidin, you live your way, I live mine. So those are the initial times. Those are all abrogated. So I know all that. I'll take 5 more minutes, yeah, if I can. Is it okay? Yes. Right. Now, as far as what is Islam is concerned, Islam is a death cult. No question. Don't question. I mean, there's no question. Why is it death cult? What is a death cult? Death cult is something which, in fact, oppresses, suppresses, even kills its own followers if they question. Does Islam do that? Yes, it does. Does it, in fact, does it allow any derogation, any questioning? Does it allow it to be left? No. Does Islam allow that? No, it doesn't. So, it's top to bottom a death cult. It's a religion which has thrived simply because by fooling people, fooling Christians as it is an Abrahamic religion. It is not an Abrahamic religion. I can tell you that being an ex-Muslim myself, it has nothing in common. I'm an agnostic man. I'm not even a Christian. I criticize Christianity as well. But I can tell you, there's a massive difference. For example, in Christianity, you will say, love the enemy of a religion, or a follower of an ideology, and the ideology. There's no difference. I will say that I criticize Islam because a doctor will treat the patient of the disease. He will hate the disease, but he will love the patient. But I also am a doctor of this against ideology. But I can love you still. I can treat you like that. And all I want is the right to speak my mind. So am I suffering from outside? Yes, I'm suffering from outside because I've lost everything. But inside I'm free. That's what it counts. So when I see general British people ignorant about it, you are being either intellectually lazy, sorry, I don't have any other better term, or you're not being patriotic enough. So I will say, at least the main purpose of me coming here is to request you to at least tell your children, many of you are probably of my age or older than me. Now, I will tell you that read, I'm only 25, come on. I'm 25, come on, Richard. So, I will tell you that read the basic book yourself, read my book if you can, and also please encourage your children to know other religion, if you want to call it religion. And to know that, give them a book of Muhammad's biography from the oldest available source, not from some apologetic mosque publishing something good about Muhammad. Be honest to yourself and you will find out the truth. Thank you for listening. I can go on for 5 more hours.